A lot of the things you guys are mentioning, I came from a, multi-billion dollar organization. It's privately held. It started with two people in a basement. Uh, it went through various iterations over time, from like the basement to like the small office, like frat house kind of culture, to silos and individual pockets, to investment in training and development and outsource consulting. It was, although I wasn't there that entire stretch that I mentioned, it was very interesting to see. Now we work with at my firm, small businesses, middle market organizations, growing companies, and there's a lot of gaps there. Question for you guys: on the front end of an investment, how much diligence is around the people, culture, what processes are in place? Because, some private equity playbooks are like, the sloppier the better, because we're going to get the valuation that we want. We're going to turn it around and it's going to be great. I know that, people is a harder thing to move than, say, cost cutting measures or implementing technology for efficiencies. Maybe speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, Jimmy, I'll kick it off there. There are probably folks out there who are doing more hardcore things in terms of human capital diligence than we are. Like we mentioned, we're a relatively small team, about 15 people, kind of split across investment and operations. I think what we're trying to do at the diligence phase is a little bit of what you described, which is kind of a binary exercise: yes or no, are certain processes in place or not? And we look at those as a way of getting to what Jimmy was talking about, this return on management attention, because we know pretty well for any investment, no matter what it looks like or how mature they are, what we're going to do in the first year to help them go from here to there. The big question for us at the diligence phase is more about sequencing. And in what order do we do these activities? When does it make sense to really lean in with the executive team? When does it make sense to look at something like a hiring process? When does it make sense to bring in this next level of managers? Or when does it make sense to kind of do an initial talent assessment and kind of get the 9-box out and figure out, are we really identifying the people who are high performers and are going to invest in an outsized way? So it's, I like the phrase emergent strategy, because if we were to put on a piece of paper at the diligence phase, exactly what we were going to do from a human capital perspective, all we know is that it was going to be wrong. So we get in the habit of pulling out the plan. I like the phrase, plans are useless, but planning is essential, both to get the company kind of familiar with the things that are in our toolkit and the rough sequencing of those things, but to make sure that we're kind of developing a continual hypothesis on what we should do and when. And of course, we're doing the, kind of bare bones things like, hey, what is the makeup of the workforce? How many people are at HQ versus remote, which, as we know, has just gotten way more complicated? And what's the architecture around that in terms of benefits and all that? But I'd say the biggest thing that we're trying to figure out is we have a pretty defined toolkit and we know what we're going to pull out. It's just a question of when do we do that to make sure that we're sequencing things as thoughtfully as we can.